Hello everybody. My name is Craig Fisher, and I'm the Director of Sales for OSS, and I'll be the MC for this webinar. I think we'll give everybody another minute or two to see if we can have some additional people join us, and then we'll get started. I appreciate everybody's patience, and thank you for taking time out of your day to join us and learn a little bit more about what's happening with AI. We'll give it one more minute, and then I'll get started. Okay, it looks like we have about 20 attendees, which is great. I appreciate everybody's participation today. My name's Craig Fisher, and I'm the Director of Sales for Open Storage Solutions, and I'll be emceeing this webinar today. I'd like to welcome everybody to a first in a series of webinars that we have planned for 2024, which OSS will be discussing a variety of technology-rated topics and presenting that to you, our customers, and potential customers. So can we go to the second slide, please? So just to let you know, all lines are currently muted. Please open the chat section of the webinar so that you can ask any questions during the webinar that you might want to pose to us or pose to one of the speakers. I also want to note that throughout the webinar, we'll have a series of relevant questions being asked by the speakers, reflecting some material that was previously covered in a previous section. And the first non-OSS employee to answer that question will be selected and presented with a prize at the end of the webinar. At the end, I'll announce the winners, and you'll be able to be contacted by our marketing team on how to collect that prize. Slide 3, please. So we're pleased to present an overview of some of the main issues that are facing the IT and security personnel of businesses of all sizes today. Sales teams at OSS often hear from our existing clients, though, that we're too small or we're not important enough to worry about ransomware attacks. I mean, we've got a firewall, we've got some sort of or software protection or virus protection, and that's probably enough. Well, I hate to tell you, that's just not true. AI today is being utilized by ransomware criminals all over the world, and they're looking to penetrate any system that they can possibly get into. In fact, in 2021, it was estimated that over 37% of all businesses were being hit by a ransomware attack, with about 13% of this growing every year. So we're close to 50% today. The other interesting thing to note is that when these ransom attacks occur, even if the victim pays the ransom, they tend to get attacked 2 or 3 more times in the following months. And so this isn't just a one-time and, oh, I got hit, so my insurance paid and I'm okay. It's an ongoing dynamic issue that IT professionals just have to deal with. In fact, even today, I got an email in my OSS email box that said, hey, go ahead and open this email because this is a review of your employee benefits. It had our signature line on it. It had our confidential don't share line and everything. I reached out to my HR team and said, hey, did you send this out to me? The answer was no. It was definitely an AI generated email to get me to open up a PDF. So with all this AI malicious software out there today, we really felt it was important to educate you and our customers on what we can do with you to help prevent these types of intrusions into your corporate infrastructure. Because when these things occur, people don't often realize that the malware is actually in their system for months. It's walking through, it's looking for vulnerabilities, it's looking for data, types of data that it's programmed to look for. And then out of the blue, it will all of a sudden activate, and then the organization's already behind. Just the fact that you've kept a backup doesn't necessarily mean it's a clean backup. Often they're corrupted as well. So when you clean up your system, get your data back, within a matter of weeks or months, you're often hit again. So next slide. So I'd like to talk today and introduce a couple of speakers who are going to educate you on the various landscape of the technology that we have today to help fight these ransomware inclusions into your organization. First of all is Jared Middlebrook. Gerald is an OSS solutions architect, and he's been in this field for a number of years. He's also one of the individuals who helps with customers who have had ransomware attacks to help retrieve data and find solutions to preventing it further. We also have a long-term partner of ours, Commvault, on board with us today. We have Tim Powers, a solution engineer from Commvault, who's going to discuss some of the advanced tools that they've developed to help strategize and deal with this ongoing AI enhanced threats that we all see today. So just to give you the next slide. The agenda basically is we're going to go through what the landscape is, and Jared's going to present that. And then both Jared and Tim will discuss some of the strategies and key technologies that are available today and how we can empower you to help fight these with a partner like OSS and Commvault. So that all being said, at the end of the webinar, we'll take a few minutes for some questions, and then I'll announce the winners, and hopefully you've learned something from this, and it'll be a valuable use of your time. So thank you very much. And Jared, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Craig. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So within the landscape of technology that we really see across the board today, I mean, there really isn't almost any product or solution today that hasn't been touched or affected in some way by artificial intelligence technologies, whether we're talking about machine learning, whether we're talking about the smallest or the largest of visible effects. It's here to stay, and it's going to be ingrained as a commonplace item within solutions for many, many years to come, until the next wave of something large penetrates into all of the technology stacks that we use and rely upon today. So I just wanted to kick things off, touch a little bit on the digital transformation. A lot of organizations, from a business planning to a technology adoption standpoint, a lot of the same problems that we've always talked about on the business demands for greater cost control, more efficiency, greater agility and response. And really on the technology side, there's been a lot of innovations over the years in expanding and fleshing out the toolbox that businesses and technology teams have to choose from in order to meet those demands and excel within the marketplace. When it comes to AI and how it's really affected a lot of those decision-making processes, it's really enhanced it. It's been able to bridge a lot of the gaps that we see within the marketplace of what does it take to adopt? What kind of administration and life cycle really comes with that? And to be able to really enhance and adopt many of those aspects to degrees quicker or even more effective than you would without it. So we're going to touch on a few of those things shortly here. So overall, when we look at AI, it really is that force multiplier within um, the entire sphere of business and technology. So I picked three features and capabilities that really I don't see going anywhere within the technology stacks that we adopt today. Decision support, whether it's um, going ahead and identifying, well, what's the root cause of all my support tickets? How can we plan for a better layout of, say, retail locations? How can we gather more information and make more effective decisions about how we um, choose which path to follow? And really, that predictive support and planning also bridges out a lot of the manual inference work and data cleanup work that goes into it. And that's a very highly evolving sector of the industry that really comes to bear. Next up is really, the smart features. You can't avoid the word smart. It's in all the products. It's in a lot of the app names and feature names, and it comes down to really it's really enhanced how we use apps, how we interact with many of the technologies today. So, for example, in this one, I go ahead and say, well, instead of manually putting together materials for a document, I can go ahead and describe to the tool to say, hey, how do I want to create my vision and express that and use that as a template. So a lot of these smart features really accelerate the capabilities and a lot of the elements that we see today within the marketplace.
Hey,
And
Jared, I
yeah,
hate to
go
interrupt,
ahead.
but can you speak up a little bit? Some of us are having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. Thanks, buddy. You're doing a
Yeah,
great job.
no worries. So the last one is really the hidden feedback loops. We see this in a lot of the technology and the infrastructure stacks in particular. And really what we're talking about are those data points. So we're going to consolidate all that data. We're then going to improve the life cycle of products. We're going to be more proactive about how we conduct features, how we go ahead and increase the life cycle of a lot of these products. And a lot of times these are just checkboxes. These are simple options that you would enable within the products and solutions. Many times they come on by default. And really, that's here to stay. I mean, we see it everything from our operating systems to our mobile apps, and really it's become a staple of technology overall. But having said that, all of these technologies are simply tools at the end of the day. And when it comes to what's knocking at the door, well, what are some of the current drivers of threats? So a lot of the innovations that we've talked about that help accelerate business also help accelerate a lot of the bad actors within industry. So I mean, today there's ransomware as a service. Just as you can swipe your credit card in a cloud, so can they. And it really expands the scope of who can leverage those tools. It's no longer isolated to particularly well-known groups, and really anybody who knows how can simply pay enough to go ahead and use those same tools that many of those groups would today, building their own ransom business models. A really big one is, again, the encrypt, exfiltrate, and extort. That's been on the rise as well, particularly against larger organizations or more well-known ones. And to be able to extort in particular and demand that ransom, demand some kind of damage and compensation. That's really been an evolving problem within the marketplace that we see today. We hear about it, on a regular basis, unfortunately, from customers on both sides of the border. And it's really here to stay, and it's only going to evolve over time as a tool that you can expect to have to deal with at some point. Uh, Something that we really see within a lot of those outbreaks is first to go the recovery systems and data. Um, it's really nice if you get hit with these things, you turn to your IT department, your IT team walks over and says, no, thank you, calmly walks over, assesses what has to be done, and begins restoration efforts. Unfortunately, we've seen this time and time again where the recovery systems and the backup data, along with any kind of disaster recovery items, are usually the first to be hit when the bad guys press that red button to say, you know what, we've searched out the organization enough, we feel we have enough, we're going to start the ransom incident. We're going to start the malware event within this organization and go from there. And really the last big one is that hybrid edge scaling attack surface. So, in traditional monolithic, IT of the past, everything would be consolidated on premise. Then we adopted the cloud. Okay, it's a second data center, has a number of different ways that we interact and require skill sets in order to operate. Then we adopted as a service. Well, all of these are sitting out on the periphery. These are all services that anybody can manage. And what's happened is the onus has really been shifted. So yes, there's many business benefits, but also it's gone from less of an IT exercise to more of a business agreement exercise of, well, how are you going to protect my data? How are you going to deal with these incidents? What is your SOC report or NOC report for some of these providers that you may work with? And you might be surprised to learn that some of those as a service organizations that position, very globally, don't actually back up the data at all, or they have a very small policy around protecting your data. And ultimately, it goes back to that cloud driver of who's responsible for the data and the objects that are unique to your organization, and that's the organization. It's not necessarily the providers. So when we factor in what's currently happening and then go to, well, how has AI really affected what we're experiencing and what we're going to see? So within the next generation of challenges really is that AI automation. So there's three areas that are evolving and emerging. So the first one is adapting of malware agents. So traditionally, as bad actors move around the organization, that time to infect, that time to compromise, and that time to decide to say, hey, we have enough, is going down. And with the advent of integrating AI into all of the techniques, starting to train agents and be able to unify a lot of manual work on their end, they've been able to accelerate the time that it takes to basically spend on quote unquote an organization before they move on to the next. The second one really is the deep learning analysis. So oftentimes the bad actors at the end of a malware or ransomware event may know your environment better than you do. And as the deep learning analysis of all of the data that they may exfiltrate out comes to bear, it builds and paints a very extensive and detailed picture that crosses the borders of business, the borders of hybrid and cloud technology, and what it really means. And the last one, which is very prevalent just quite recently, is to mimic and deepfake. So to use the content of people within your organization, process, and services. And it doesn't take much to go in and dig up, looking through Facebook, looking through social media, looking at a lot of the information that people post online. Just the other day at the mall, kids taking pictures, using their AI generated tools to go and superimpose things, change things, and have it look very passable or even semi-realistic is a fast evolving field. I mean, if it's good enough for them and it's good enough for what you see online, it's definitely good enough for the bad actors. So really, when we talk about ransomware threat simplified, this is just an eye chart to really portray some of the categories and items that are starting to be consolidated by AI to really teach, that quote unquote, that malware dog new tricks. And this chart just continues to expand every year. So as we move forward into, well, it's no wonder that the word cyber resiliency has landed on the plate of so many organizations to really address a lot of the newer concerns and some of the shortcomings that are identified as time goes on, whether it's proactively ourselves or unfortunately reactively after the fact. So within that business demand for cyber resiliency, we really see the technology side of systems automation to really come to bear with those same AI-empowered decision-making and management tools and technologies, protection and mitigation, that evolution of going from, oh, it's just a simple backup solution to something that is very robust, something that is more intelligent and is able to work and interact with all your systems. We're going to learn a bit more about that later on in Tim's section. The last one really is systems governance, applying more policies with more diverse actions, not necessarily taking the time and the manpower to fine-tune and tweak a lot of the traditional technical terms, which are now being presented as more business terms within systems and solutions. So at the end of this, really, what can we expect? We're seeing a diverse threat tool suited to any org size for speed and scale. When you have that kind of compartmentalized, pre-built tool set that's very diverse, very much a multi-headed hydra, you can expect some things, particularly accounts, and then any associated systems that you have access to really be at the mercy of these things without some solid defenses and solid mitigation techniques, which we'll get into in the second part here. And really forcing an increased recovery time on organizations, particularly if they get the recovery systems and the DR systems out of the way. It can be quite devastating and even potentially fatal for an organization. And unfortunately, we don't have to look beyond the news month after month to learn about some of these events. One note on cyber insurance. Cyber insurance has become a hot button topic over the last year to two. We see those requirements piling up. We have customers reach out to us all the time to say, hey, I have this new requirement from our insurance agency. How can I get this done? Really, we don't see any common standard, but what we do really see is a plank to be able to prove that you've secured an offsite backup of your data and be able to restore that within an SLA or an RTO time is really one of the most common items that we see when we work with customers. And that cost, again, is only going up as everybody's in insurance for other things does as well. And one last thing to really consolidate a lot of the point solutions. Organizations could have dozens to hundreds of applications that they actually have to manage and add up at the end of the day. So to be able to have those particular solutions and point items communicate and talk to each other, if they can't, we're finding that a lot of organizations are finding tools that can, whether they're extending an existing first party or finding alternatives that really feed into a central system to make those decisions and to be able to have that readiness. So really, what can we do to mitigate the risk? Well, we'll jump into that in a moment. But first, a quiz question. Ready your chat. Name a cyber resilience technology. And we'll give a moment here. And we'll move on. So into the second half, we're going to talk a little bit about cyber strategy and the technologies that help support part of the frameworks and part of the main drivers that really lend to that decision making around how quickly can we restore. Do we even have a discussion about even thinking about paying a ransom, for example? Well, if you can recover, the answer is usually no thanks, without even a second thought. So a couple of key topics here. It's not a question of if, but when. Your network security is going to have lots of logs. Your user accounts may have some cleanup from time to time. And as that gaze falls upon organizations of trying to exploit them, there's definitely a lot of waves that are left there. So a couple of key topics: frameworks and building an effective plan. We're just going to take small slice of what some of those frameworks do. Securing your environment, a lot of commonplace items, and really talking about the last two in a little bit more detail. So data storage meets AI and security. That's a big one. How storage has really evolved to meet a lot of these security threats and protect organizations within the landscape. And then talking a little bit about cyber recovery. So the first one really is, what is it about building an effective plan? If you don't have a DR plan, if you don't have some kind of response plan, it's never too late to start one today. A lot of the advice that we find is about adopting a framework which they have for any org size. And there are many to choose from. So within that framework, really one thing that's very constant and common regardless of philosophy, regardless of how we go ahead and address these concerns with process. There's really always a data protection and recovery response portion of it. So frameworks are really there to augment and identify the recovery plan gaps that you may have today, which is very important. The second thing really is to explore your data center stack. So a lot of the tools and solutions and infrastructure that you have today, a lot of the common ones do have full support for a lot of these frameworks by default. It's simply a matter of understanding all the puzzle pieces you already have, identifying any gaps, and then working through, shoring up what does that recovery and response plan really look like. For the last one, data protection solutions really also bake in a lot of these security options and leverage them. We're going to learn a bit about that more later on in Tim's side of the presentation. Second one, really securing your environment. I mean, bare basics here, choosing solution integrations that centralize information. People have knocks and socks, they might have SOARs, they might have all sorts of point solution types that consolidate information within their organization, particularly for IT to identify and response. One of the leading technologies that we're finding is really in what's called deception technology. It's really easy to augment your environment with it, no matter what investments you've made, however many, however few. It's a great cost-effective way to help secure your environment and giving some proactive information back into that system. Third one really is about endpoint clients, accounts, endpoint devices, still very much a large target base, very common, very popular. That popularity has never gone away. It's always important to leverage a lot of the XDR AI empowered client type solutions, and also to consider a lot of their diverse response options, not only within their tool suite, but also some of the services that they provide as well. And then the last real big thing is thinking differently about systems architecture. The monolithic model, I put a firewall in front, I put some segmentation via VLANs, from eggshell to secure system segments by design, to really building out a more robust system of how it's laid out and identifying how we can protect some of those critical systems that run around today. Third thing is data storage meets AI and security. So overall, a lot of the innovation that we've seen within the storage sector, it used to be just, hey, I have a storage box, it contains my company's and my system's data, life is good. Then we adopted snapshots, then we adopted policy engines, and seamless DR for across hybrid cloud. Today, really, immutable storage is where it's at. It's an essential commodity that is baked into a lot of product updates and a lot of existing solutions. And even to the extent of we've seen where some vendors have actually, whereas actually released these capabilities and some of the advanced ransomware features for free to customers, whereas before they were actually a paid feature. So really, it's an expectation of industry that you have this capability moving forward to protect your backup data and some of your critical data as it becomes archived and essential for recovery. Talking a little bit about that offsite and offline policy-driven data storage to really identify, well, what kind of data do I have on this? How is it accessed? How is it used? And to be able to pivot right off the storage platform and say, for example, you know what? I'm seeing some anomalous data changes on here. I'm not expecting it out of the baseline. I'm going to generate an alert and I'm going to automatically snapshot a read-only immutable protect copy of that on them automatically. The third one really is detection response AI agents. So storage has really been augmented with a lot of proactive and enhanced features that really drive the equation of security on storage directly. To say, hey, you know what? If I see some data changes here, or I can no longer scan the data wholesale like I could before, we need to flag that. We need to raise an alarm. I need to protect the system, and maybe even be able to identify exactly why that might be happening or the sources of where that's coming from. And the last two really, air gap of communications and data silos, have that smart response of when the system's not in use, why are we leaving those doors open for those communications bridges? Why are we not looking to solidify our systems and keep them under lock and key without any manual work? Well, there's a lot of those policy and AI-driven elements that are baked right into either the application stacks, the infrastructure, and also some of the storage solutions that we see today. And really the last one again, data storage has really started to adopt those security frameworks and enable all those features by default out of the box. So you don't have to spend a ton of time with them. You can still click next, finish to work with your systems in order to achieve, both those IT goals and also support those company policies and security-minded directions. So last item really is around cyber recovery. So the key message here is your recovery solution is key. Having it and not having it is a big deal. When you come down to ground zero, what are we going to do? What we're really seeing is, that influence of AI-powered agents and items on recovery solutions to identify, remedy, and even automatically restore systems back to known points with very little intervention and minimal feedback and direction. What we're also seeing is, again, those latest security and framework features on by default. So now we have all our puzzle pieces arranged and we don't have to spend too much time diving in and configuring these to really make them do what they're supposed to do. It really starts with a recovery strategy and environment to restore from. So we're going to hear about options of how we can have that automated freedom of choice of where and what to restore on demand in many cases. Not every organization has a dedicated clean room environment to run their data through. But some of those capabilities and features are coming on demand and more operational so that it's not a recurring cost. You don't necessarily have to invest in a whole other data center in order to have these capabilities or even hang on to a bunch of equipment. So with that, just to tail this off, there's a lot of information out there. I've highlighted 3 here that we have found to be very good reads. So the Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Digital Defense Report, it's published annually, available for free online. Lots of good information on, what's going on within the cloud. The cloud is not immune like people think from these threats. It's simply about delegating the infrastructure and hardware bits and bobs over to the provider. Really having a platform to easily and freely pivot and adopt. Second one is from Fortinet. With their global install base being quite large than a lot of the competitors. Their security fabric gathers a lot of information and proactively applies a lot of AI-based technologies to help identify, filter through, and stop a lot of the threats. It's a very good read, a little more technical. It's published biannually. And the last one is Amazon Web Services. They have what's called the Well-Architected Framework. It's their live, up-to-date document. And I do encourage a read for that, as it talks about how a hyperscaler like Amazon goes about identifying what are those pillars and those frameworks and how are they integrated into hybrid cloud models. And with that, our next quiz question: which storage feature has become an essential commodity?
Yeah, so please, everybody, open your chat. If you know the answer to that, please put it in the chat. And if you're the first one to answer, you'll be awarded a gift at the end of the presentation. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate your presentation today. It was educational, and I hope everybody got a little bit out of it. Next, I want to introduce Tim Powers with Commvault. So, Tim, take it away. Tim, I think you're on mute.
That helps. I was just saying
thanks, buddy.
Thank you very much, Craig, for letting me know I'm on mute. Thank you, Jared, for that great kind of set up a little bit. And if we kind of advance on, and thank you for the audience for joining us today. It's really nice to have this opportunity to talk about Commvault and how we align to some of the messaging that Jared just discussed. For those of you that may not know Commvault, we've been a leader, a publicly traded company, a leader in the industry over the past 25, 26 years, providing different data protection type solutions to our customers. We manage over 3 exabyte of data, mainly in our Metallic Cloud, which was an offering that we launched about 4 years ago. As the industry has moved to a lot of SaaS-based applications, we found that there was a need to have a SaaS-based solution that really targeted those type of workloads that were migrating into the cloud, things like Microsoft 365, Salesforce, etc. And it was really the innovation where we were able to take a technology platform, because it's always been a single code base, and really kind of divide it up on how technology is being consumed today. So in just over 2 years' time, we were able to kind of make that a very viable consumption model, if you will. We crossed over 100 million in annualized revenue in 2 years. So it's a very successful product, and it's really the bench or the foundational capability as we move into the future and really kind of rebrand a little bit and look at the addressable market around cyber resiliency. So if we move on to the next slide. And I do want to kind of, there's a lot of different technology providers out there. There's a lot of, next gen kind of companies that are disruptors, that are bringing new technology, that are pushing the more mature technology companies to innovate. We always found that we've been innovators. It's really been driven by our 100,000 customers that we support and whose data we protect on a daily basis. And it's because of these 100,000 customers, really, that we've gained a lot of insights on how to protect data, how to secure it, how to bring new innovation into the industry, to be able to address the challenges that Jared did a great job of outlining earlier. Do you advance? So you probably, if you haven't already heard, you're going to hear it by the end of today, this term around cyber resilience, because really in this evolution that we're in, there's really this kind of morphing from what was traditional data protection or backup in the early days, which were really operationally focused. We were looking at simple data loss, recovering simple systems. We had terminology of backup was only as good as restore was only as good as recovery. But in light of the threats that we live in and where the recoverability initiatives are today, there's really this new, if you will, capability or organizational challenge around getting to the true cyber resilience, where not only are we protecting and staging and being ready to recover data, but that we have the ability to really integrate into the overall security ecosystems to be aware of where the threats lie and to integrate with partners that provide that type of threat intelligence or have capabilities in detecting, responding, and again, trying to get to a better recovery situation. And we try to do it again with the most intelligence. So Jared touched on a lot of the artificial intelligence induced ransomware services that are out there, and they're really operating at machine, type speeds. A lot of software, a lot of systems have really been designed to make it usable for the human being. So bringing in a lot of AI capabilities, a lot of machine learning, advanced analytics is something that we've been doing for a number of years. And to do that really in a continuous cycle where we have a platform that is providing, improvements on a daily basis around the security posture, around the recoverability, to really kind of support the dynamic natures of modern businesses. If you advance. So again, we really need to kind of size up what are the threats. And there's a lot of tabletop exercises that different vendors are leading with that you've probably participated in. But again, Jared touched a lot on the digital transformation initiatives that have been in play for the past dozen or so years, to where all businesses have really had some type of capability of digitizing their business systems. And that's created a lot more threats, if you will, around those type of technologies. So digital transformation has different types of implications, cloud adoption, the distribution of applications and data across multiple technology silos and different providers, the emergence of new AI type threats means that you have more surfaces to secure, more surfaces that need to be monitored, more alerts that you need to separate really the signal from the noise of all that alerting, and then understand your contingency recovery plans based on that threat landscape. So depending on the industry, time being money, if you look at a high impact industry where time equals money, like the brokerage industry, they often measure about $6 to $7 million an hour of impact for down systems or compromised systems. So again, there's a lot of threats out there. It's very important to understand those prior to going in and building that plan of really like moving beyond just understanding what application level recovery objectives are to really how do I stand up those applications to support your business based on the criticality of a cyber-based incident. If you advance. So it's really important, again, talking about resilience and putting it into the context of today's world. As I mentioned, back up in the day was really about operational-based recoveries. We've created a lot of DR plans that allowed us for kind of natural disasters, site-based recovery, et cetera. If you can build out the slide, that'd be fine. But really, we need to get to a strategy that acknowledges what Jared pointed out before, that something will fail. And the system needs to be able to be built to respond, knowing that failure is imminent. It's not when, it's not if, it's how many times is it going to happen to you? And are you prepared to go through a recovery? And are your partners in your data protection and your security systems ready to take that on? So it's real important to understand that this is additive in the recovery strategy. We're adding kind of a new dimension when we talk about cyber resiliency. It needs to be put into new context. And part of that is understanding your overall risk posture on a continuous basis. So having tools within the platform that Commvault and our key partners like OSS help us implement is to understand overall security posture, have the tools built in to be able to measure the risk that's in the environment on a continuous basis, just like we do with different vulnerability tools. Go ahead and build out. The second one is if we're identifying different types of threats that may be in the environment or our overall posture and the best practices that we're implementing around things like making sure that multi-factor authentication, multi-party authorization, are in play, making sure that we segment properly to make sure that bad actors can't easily traverse the network. But if they are, being able to detect and expose and look for different kinds of incident of compromise. And when you detect it, be able to respond. So going back to Jared's point, aligning to those frameworks like NIST that are taking you through the journey of identifying, protecting, detecting, respond and recover, and really now in the 2.0 framework, having the governance in place to be able to report for auditability or for those cyber-based insurance kind of policies that are very important for forensic-based investigations. You can build it out, please. And when you do detect it and you are compromised, and as Jared pointed out, you know that you have malware or have been infected, or maybe you don't even know. You know you've been compromised, but you're not even sure to what extent. But when you go to those recovery type situations, to make sure that prior to doing a recovery or a restoration, that you have a good, clean backup, and that your backup technology is validating that on a continuous basis, having the tools in there to be able to repair compromised data and do the rapid recovery that's kind of going to be required based on new governance principles you can build out. And that really kind of comes down to be able to provide clean room-based services. A lot of cyber insurance policies do not allow you to recover back into the existing environment that has been compromised. A lot of times those environments are going to be locked down for different forensic investigations, and you still have to carry on, time being money, the business processes that are running on these systems, on these applications. So it's important, build it out, please, is to make sure that not only having kind of a trusted partner, like with Commvault, with OSS, but really putting in process those run books, the process ease on how to recover, leveraging a good technology platform, but having the processes in place to understand how those run books, those workflows, those orchestration engines work, and to have it well documented and to be on a continuous testing cycle. There's nothing that provides success better than a continuous testing cycle. You don't want to be when the hot water is boiling and a lot of high stress trying to figure something out when there's a lot of eyes kind of on you from a recovery-based event. You can build out. Move on. So really it's this continuous based type of improvement cycle of understanding the risks. Again, in each base industry, you're probably exposed to different types of risks, both to your information technology stacks as well as operational technology stacks. And having the capabilities, again, to understand what those risks are, building out to the frameworks that Jared touched on earlier, and really understanding the risk, having that good risk posture, understanding your readiness. Are you in a good position to recover? Having tools in your environment to lower the blast radius so that you get better early warning signals with cyber deception technologies, with other types of readiness-based systems that are going to lower that blast radius. And then when it does occur, that you have a clean backup environment, that it has been protected and armored, because again, it is targeted by the bad actors. The backup environment, they're going to dwell for a period of time. They're going to try to outlive your good backups. So you have to be ready and have these best of breed type of practices, things like air gap storage that we talked about before, immutable air gap storage at that. And again, understand how you're going to provide the recovery-based environment in an isolated kind of fashion that clean room may bring to the thing. But again, it's just paramount to have your backups secured, have them encrypted, that they're in a tertiary-based air-gapped, immutable storage. And again, building out good integration so we understand the threats that are in there from all the daily threat intelligence feeds where you may be making investments with best of breed security providers, but they may not be talking to your data protection platform. So having those integrations built is also incredibly important. We can move on, please. So we at Commvault and our great partners like OSS, we feel like we protect all workloads. track record of 25 plus years in the business, really helping our customers protect their environment, building on that bedrock of innovation, so that we have this new offering that we're calling Commvault Cloud, where no matter how you want to consume IT, whether it's based cloud native, whether it's a hybrid based environment, whether you're still providing IT on premise, that capability has a unified data protection platform, so that we can reach into endpoints. We can reach into the different edges that Jared talked about, where some of the liability, lies with split VPNs and whatnot. Understand your risk across where your data and your application lives. And again, be able to leverage the other investments that you're making with, key security partners, which Commvault does. So we kind of feel that we protect all workloads across all clouds, all storage systems we integrate with. And again, building out this security ecosystem to help provide a better single pane of glass data and cyber resiliency strategy. Carry on. So again, just Commvault, we provide a slew of different capabilities in a single platform. It's all integrated. We do not have multiple point products with a unified dashboard or whatnot. We build the zero trust architecture. We build those best practices into the systems themselves. And we build a lot of capabilities to do some of the things I touched on earlier. With our ThreatWise product, it allows us to deploy decoys or different types of cyber deception technology. Our risk analysis is very important, because since we're ingesting data as part of the backup streams, if you will, we can go ahead and kind of deconstruct the metadata around data and get advanced insights into what type of data we're storing, and make that kind of actionable, if you will. So we can seek out things like personal identifiable information or other sensitive information, and make it actionable, that if we do find something like a credit card number or a social security number, that we're able to take an action on that, mask it. And again, report that up to dashboards, so we understand from this zero trust architecture who has access to what data and what for. So it gives us better visibility in the data landscape. It allows us to lower risk, and again, provide a better outcome from a cyber resiliency perspective. So there's a bunch of capabilities I'm going to touch on as we move forward above just our core backup and recovery. Looking for threats in data, so we got those clean recoveries. Building out clean room as eventually we'll do that with our partners as a service. And again, getting that good security posture with our Security IQ product. You can move on. So Security IQ, this is a very nice tool that our customers really like, because it's giving us a visualization as part of the data protection landscape and product to really get to the outcomes that you want to achieve of having good security posture. It allows us to kind of have insights into some of the security best practices that I touched on. Things like, is multi-factor authentication turned on for all the authentication type of mechanisms that go on. We can also query that to understand it not just within the backup environment, but in the systems that we touch. If we want to make sure that we don't have any kind of deletion from insider threats, having multi-party authorization for any kind of modifications to data or deletions. And again, some of the other capabilities I've touched on of leveraging and understanding where we have good recovery points. You can move on, please. So again, a lot of the capabilities are this ability to sift through data that we're protecting and being able to detect any kind of anomalies and go through that continuous analysis cycle. So we can look not only at our backup data that we're ingesting and run analytics against that, but because we leverage various kind of touch points within live systems, we can look at live file activity. We can look at various backup processes that are running, looking for any kind of modifications from those threat actors that are trying to, again, leverage and interrupt the backup cycles. We can build out different deception technologies that look maybe like our backup environment and try to trip up bad actors. We leverage all sorts of different advanced machine learning and AI to expose different conditions and behaviors, again, both in live systems and backup data. And again, validate good recovery points. You can move on. We'll move a little faster, running time. But again, part of our whole benefit is to bring all these machine learning capabilities that we've had on top of the cyber resilience so that we can see the full benefits of AI. We just launched a co-pilot, an AI co-pilot that we refer to as ARLI. It's short for Autonomous Resilience, and it's really at the beck and call of our customers 24/7 and helps them kind of respond to different inquiries within the data protection cyber resilience landscape. So it interfaces with different generative AI models. It allows us to kind of consolidate information, be able to report more in an AI-based delivery model, if you will, with real personalized, actionable responses, but allows us to do things like have different kind of active insights that we can provide to the operators that use our tool. So they can get, real live insights into things like operational failures, things that they want to prioritize when they're doing their day-to-day administration. And allows them to kind of get right to the meat of the matter without having to sift through a lot of logs, a lot of other kind of reporting to understand what is the current state of the environment. We provide things like code assistance, which really builds a no-code based delivery model that integrates with our APIs so that we can create quick integrations to those other tool sets. We do things like custom walkthroughs. So that provides very guided kind of how to, if you will, do something and helps like fine tune the environment to the specification that each customer wants. Or even like how we do documentation, instead of having to go up to books online or whatever, we can ask those how-to questions of the system and it'll provide from our curated information and our support databases the best response to the query. And things like root cause remediation. Again, I have a problem, I have a failed job. It's going to be looking for that and taking proactive type steps. You can move forward. So it's not new for Commvault. We've been leveraging this for a lot of times, again, for a lot of our history, if you will, providing different types of data intelligence with our risk analysis tools, looking for anomalies within backup data with our risk intelligence. And again, as I just outlined, really bringing newer operational intelligence across the landscape to help guide customers like yourselves into better outcomes. Next slide. So again, just with some of these capabilities that we're building in from an AI consumption model, these are just outlined real quick of some of the capabilities that are within the product of how we're leveraging or looking for specific types of actions that we can bring better outcomes to and automate that transaction. Next slide. So kind of just to bring it home a little bit, we feel we're differentiated in the marketplace. We have great partners like OSS. When we launched our Metallic product, we were consuming the platform services of Microsoft Azure. So it allows us really to kind of separate how we control a set of systems to how we manage the underlying data. We've built in a lot of the comprehensive security apparatus that I talked about today. We have the ability to really move, a hypervisor type. If I'm a EXX, I can automatically take a backup, restore it into an EC2 instance or into an Azure instance or into 26 other clouds that we provide, kind of hypervisor to hypervisor based capability. Understanding risk, how to go about remediating risk in the environment, that early warning, threat-wise functionality, and we're really key on bringing this new clean room-based recovery to the market. So next slide. So brings me to the top of the hour and the last quiz question, which is, when does Commvault analyze an environment's data for anomalies? Is it before the backup job, during the backup job, or after the backup job, or is it all the above?
Okay, we have an answer. Excellent.
All right, excellent.
So guys, this is Craig Fisher again. I really want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. I hope you find that the information provided today was valuable to you, and that if there's any questions that you have, please answer them quickly. or ask them quickly because we're already at the top of the hour. If not, please feel free to reach out to any of the social media posts or addresses that we have listed here. Inquire at openstore.com. Go to openstore.com and put in a query to the marketing team. Then you can be connected directly with an OSS salesperson. Or feel free, if you already know your OSS salesperson, to reach out to them directly, and they can help to provide you with services that will help to ensure that your systems are backed up and secured correctly from using products such as Commvault, and help to let you sleep a little bit better at night. So thanks for attending today. That's the end of this webinar. Please look for future webinar invitations in the future. And again, I thank you very much for your time today. I know how valuable it is. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.